Imagine you would have a mental breakdown, a relationship breakup, a depression, a burnout, or anything like that. Do you have someone you can call at any time that understands you and that supports you and that is there for you? When you meet up with friends, do you feel energized afterwards?
Welcome to the Bliss Builders Podcast, a podcast about mental health
and personal growth
with Kristina
and Sandra Diebel.
These are some questions we would like to discuss today in our podcast episode about how to build closer friendships and how to deepen your connections. We are here together in this Bliss Builders episode with my lovely co-host Kristina.
Hello.
And myself, Sandra. And these two questions, I would say, summarize some of the problems pretty good that we have nowadays with building friendships and meaningful connections, where it either can be that we are surrounded maybe with a big group, for example, but we still feel lonely sometimes. And on the other hand, especially when it gets into the adulthood, we sometimes struggle with finding new friends. And this is something we would like to discuss today and have a deeper look. What are the problems, the challenges for both of these topics, and what can you do to build stronger connections and new friendships? So for the introduction in this topic, I would like you to think about your own situations when you are with your friends, however you want to see it. I can talk about some own experience where I was with people, for example, and then still felt bored because I couldn't really connect with them. I couldn't find any topics that would be much interesting for me to talk about, or some experience that I really enjoy like they did. Sometimes I felt sad because I was literally craving those connections and something I can do with them that is also meaningful to me. What then mostly is something you connect over, or even literally lonely because there was a discrepancy between the connections I wanted to have and the ones I actually had. So maybe this is something familiar for you as well. Also, it can be quite challenging to even deepen the relationships you already have, where you might have the feeling that you are just on the surface with some topics and some small talk, what's nice, and you can spend some time together, you can have fun, that's great. But when it comes to real tricky situation, for example, some personal problems you're in, some troubles you want to talk about, you want to exchange, something that's a bit uncomfortable, then you can see who are your real friends, who are the ones that are there for you, that also supports you, and where you not only can vent. Well, this is, at least in my country, quite often that people tend to vent together, where it can be a bit relieving sometimes, but it doesn't help for the actual problem, and mostly not to feel better in the long term, where some real support, someone that listens to all you have to say and your feelings, gives you some base, some fundamental that you can build on. So that's about the topic of the relationship in general. So maybe my lovely co-host.
So we also have an episode on loneliness, which you can check out on YouTube, and we will also, if you are listening on YouTube, you can also see the link here to check it out, where we already discussed the topic of friendships on a surface level, and came to the conclusion that deep connections are built, well, I don't want to give away too much, but
Spoiler!
but we came to the conclusion that the antidote to loneliness for us was like creating and finding and establishing self-love and deep connections. And what I've recently found out is that there's even a verse in the Bible that basically states that the cure to loneliness is creation, contribution, and connection. And in this episode, we will go deeper into how to build friendships, where to find friends, and how to deepen those connections.
So let's have a look at the troubles first, at the problems when it comes to friendships. Maybe I should say that we broke it up into two parts. What is like building friendship in general, and then how to deepen some connections. So this will be two separate parts. And the trouble with making new friends can quite often be, especially in the adulthood, some time. So where do you get the time from? You have to invest to find and to create those friendships. Then it's also where to find them, and then what to say, what should I even talk about, how I can, get in contact with people. And so about friends, we mostly have our friends from our childhood, like out of school, or when it comes to uni, a lot of people get a bigger friend group over there, and then we probably create some new friends at some workplace. But as we're getting older, we also focus more on our own family, maybe some more relationship, like your own partner. You maybe start to build your own family, getting kids, and so time is very rare. And we were talking about it before, and we were saying having a full-time job and then maybe having some other duties as well, and trying to make some time up for your partner, for your kids, for yourself. So where do you get the time for those friendships? Well, if you have them already, it's like a safety net, and you have a good foundation that helps you in situations when you don't feel good, when there is something upsetting you, when something happens, where you are actually craving those connections when you don't have them, in case some of those situations come up, where you then have to make up time that you go and find those new connections and invest some time to build them up. So the time, then they won't come to your house door and knock on the door.
Not necessarily.
Mostly, in case you live next to a pub like we do, it might be. But most of the time it won't happen like that. So you probably have to take some action, and you have to go to some places, you have to do something that you get in contact with people. The best would be also with similar interests or something that you can connect over. And yeah, so this is also the third tricky part. How do I get into a conversation? How do I start? How do I even build up? It's like, hi, nice weather, a bit hot today. And then, yeah, so for a lot of people, this is also quite challenging. And even once you were able to get in contact with people, it's then how to go deeper than just a surface level. Like, you can have a lot of small talk, you can have a great evening, you can have a great time, but like we were saying in the beginning, how to create a connection that is then that stable, that they are there for you and you also for them. I mean, that goes of course both ways. So also here the challenge is again what to say, how can I what can I talk about. What then comes down to, and now I have to spoil a little bit, is you have to open up yourself also probably, but then mostly some fear kicks in that you have to share something about yourself, and you probably would have to be vulnerable. Because you might fear the consequences. What can be is they might see you as weird or weak, or they might judge you, they might misunderstood you, something like this. And this is a fear that builds up quite often a barrier where we try to protect ourselves and don't open up what is then in the way of building deep connections. So now we've talked about a few challenges about friendship and the deep connections. Kristina, can you give us some solutions for those challenges?
Yes, I can. How you can build friendships, and in case you don't have any friendships yet, how to find friends. As you've mentioned before, Sandra mentioned before, most people when they grow older don't necessarily lack the skill of how to build friendships, but they don't have time. And if you have friends, that also might be an issue. If you have family, a full-time job, and kids, and a partner, then it can be very hard to actually maintain the friendships you already have. And here it is very important to prioritize your friendships, to schedule them in at least once a month, to catch up, and to arrange a set date with your friends to make that possible. If you don't have friends yet, you kind of have to see it a little bit similar to dating, that you have to prioritize that and schedule set dates that you reserve, that you block the time, like you would for your work, like you would for your gym, to then do things that help you to meet friends. And that brings us to the next question, like, where do you find friends? It's technically very simple. You can make friendships at work with your colleagues. If you don't like them, that's fine. You can also find them through the gym, for example, through your hobbies, by joining courses, by going to meetups, by doing other sports activities like group sports. So there's several opportunities of where you could meet friends, but it's not always easy, especially if you have some form of social anxiety and going out is not, it costs energy. It's just how it is. It can cost energy. So try to find something that you enjoy where there will be other people. So if you're a little bit more introverted and you maybe like reading or painting, there is cell phone free meetups where people put away their phones and basically just read everywhere in their own corner, but it gives you the opportunity to get in touch with people. It can also help to just talk to people more in general to overcome certain fears, like talking to the cashier, talking to your barista, and just starting very simple with basic steps where it's not that important. If you talk to your cashier or your barista or the waiter in a cafe, it's a lot easier to start there and have a nice friendly chat with them, because if it doesn't go further, that's kind of like expected, so you can practice.
Good training.
Yeah, it's good training. Or it can be good training. Another thing of how to find/build friendships is, what do you do once you are in the conversation? Once either of you said hello, and I would always recommend, if you're finding new friends, be the one to reach out, mention something, look at a person that seems interesting to you, that you feel like resonates with you, mention something about, make a compliment. A compliment is such a great way of starting a conversation with people. Ask them a question. That's how I met her. I asked her where the iron board was from, or the iron was something like that. I don't really remember it.
And look widely too.
Yes, imagine all the friendships you don't even know you will have in the future. Get excited about the beautiful friendships you will build, and you still don't know about the people who will become important to you that you don't yet know about. I think that's a very exciting thought to have when you're in this process, and it can help you, because you never know how those people that you don't yet know will enrich your life and where it will lead. So that's a very good point. Then the question is, like, once you have overcome the possible fear of reaching out, and you have made a compliment or you've asked a question, there's no fear about asking questions in my regard, because if you ask a question about like where they got something from, and if that doesn't lead to anything, that's just how it is. But it's a start. It opens the conversation, and then you can go with the flow. So if people then continue to talk to you, or you see them again, because like one day at the gym you just ask a question, and then the next day at the gym you're already saying hi to each other, then you can continue and build on that conversation. So here comes the conversation part. It's very important that you interact with people. So once you've started the conversation, even if it was the last time you met them, or if it's like, for example, the gym and you continuously meet, it's a different situation than when it might be a one-time occasion. If it's a one-time occasion, see if they respond more to it. And if they ask you something first and you resonate with that, answer. And maybe answer with an opposite question. So if they ask you a question, answer, and then ask them a question. In the beginning it can be very simple, like pretty much small talk, but it gets you going, like what do you do, what brought you here, and you can even go a step deeper if you enjoy that, or if you're brave enough, which would be what made you happy today, what are you grateful for today, what was the most interesting part of your day, how are you feeling today, which are like
already like a little slide to the second part.
Yes, nice. which is not everyone feels comfortable with that. I personally do. I enjoy those questions because you get deeper and more interesting answers than if you ask them what they do. So I like to ask people about their enjoyment, because it also right away tells you something that you could possibly connect to. Be like, oh yeah, that makes me happy too, or oh, that's exciting. But that's me. You can also ask them questions about their appearance, questions about where they got, like, as I said, questions always good. Take the pressure off yourself. Just imagine if it goes wrong, you might never ever see them again. If it's in a situation like the gym where you will see them again, ask safe questions like, where's the toilet? Can you tell me where that on that weight is? Do you know how to use that machine? Something where people want to be helpful, and people, even if they don't resonate, you cannot be rejected, but like, ask them when they're in an open position. So if they have their headphones in, it's better not to try.
I'm making some lifts
because it might set you up for rejection. So yeah, so much about interaction. It can always be very helpful to have a few questions in mind before you start a conversation, to basically think about questions you would like to ask in advance, and then you have a repertoire of questions in the back of your head, so that when you are in a situation, you can go through that repertoire and then ask the question that fits the person in front of you. So that can be a start that helps you to get into a longer conversation, possibly.
Can you give us 3
Questions?
Yeah. examples?
Well, as I've just mentioned, to start with, if you're the person leading the conversation, would be, hey, that's a lovely dress. Where did you get that from? Or, I'm just using you as an example. You have really pretty hair. Technically, that is not a question, that's a compliment, so they can say thank you and leave, but it can help to get something going, because sometimes, especially between women, a lot of the times they then respond and be like, oh, you too, and then you kind of start a conversation based on that. Another question would be, what brought you here today?
The podcast.
Yes. If you're in the gym, you kind of have to consider the environment you're in.
Yeah.
So if you're in a gym, you can ask like, did you have a good workout today? Or you can make a compliment like, ooh, you're going strong. That could be the first interaction. Take it slow. So if you know that you're in the same place again, take it slow. Take baby steps. That way you don't like set yourself up for rejection as much, and you can safely build over time. That's in every place where you repeatedly go, no matter if it's gym or hobby classes or courses. If you just build it slow over time, the first interaction is just a small thing. The second interaction, maybe a little bit more. People get used to you better than if you jump in and ask them 15 questions at the same time. Can also work. I've had conversations that started with a smile and I just reacted, or just a simple hi can also do the trick. Sometimes, like if someone says hi and you just say hi back, and then the person can ask a question, and then you can answer and ask a question back, and this whole thing can already lead into a very, very long conversation. So yes, if you're in a hobby class, you could ask them where they got paintbrushes from, where they got the equipment from, how long it took them to finish something. If you're at work, it's usually a lot easier. That's why most people have friends at work, because it's a lot easier to get into conversation, because you most of the time have to ask people questions like, what are you doing? How far are you with the project? But in that, like especially in the work environment, it can help to ask personal questions about their private life, like life outside of work. Like, what are you doing after work today? Not necessarily with the intention to right away do something together, but it can lead there. So stay open. Think about questions. I'm sure you will come up with your own questions that suit your environment and your needs if you think about it advance of time. That way you don't have this shutdown moment when you're in the situation. You're like, I want to talk to the person, but now I can't think of anything. So it's always good to have something prepared in the back of your mind. And the last step, once you are in conversation, and if the conversation is more than like just a simple first exchange of compliments or questions, if it evolves in a conversation with a couple of more sentences, you can literally just exchange contact details, ask if they have social media. Do you have Instagram? Do you have Facebook? That is a little bit less intimidating for most people nowadays than asking, can I have your number? When do we meet next? And honestly, for me, a lot of the times, I had people approach me and just simply ask me, hey, do you want to be friends?
Really? You had that?
Yeah, and I loved it. No, because it's like, why are we making it so complicated?
Yeah,
you can literally just do it like children do and be like, hey, I think you're cool. Do you want to be friends? But to be fair, the reason why most people don't do that is because they're afraid of rejection. Because if you go at it straight away without testing the water first, which is pretty much all the steps I've described are testing the waters, you can get rejected. So the less fear of rejection you have, the easier it is for you to literally just approach people and be like, hey, I think you're cool. You want to be friends? But don't beat yourself up if you're not there. I wasn't there for like a very long time when I was younger. And I had periods of time when I did not have friends. And I had issues with social interaction. So take it easy, take your steps slow. And once you have established, you have a person at the gym or like in your friend group, not friend group, in your circle, in your hobby courses, at work, or wherever you might meet them. You can even talk to people on the street. Once you have established a point of contact, you have exchanged details, now it's about deepening that connection that you've just created. And how do you deepen that connection? Well, you deepen that connection by, well, of course, reaching out. So don't necessarily, like in dating, that might be the case sometimes that you should not reach out for some, but
all of this is so childish, I find. Come on.
yes, either way.
We are adults, we can.
Yes, but especially with friendships, since we all have busy lives, reach out. Be the one to take the first step. Ask them, hey, I thought it can be helpful to like, hey, I thought our encounter last time we saw each other was really cool. Would you like to hang out sometime? You can keep it vague, or you can say a specific activity. Would you like to hang out for go for a drink, a meal, to cinema, do another sports activity outside of whatever you're doing? So if it's work, you can say, hey, you want to go for drinks after work? Do you want to go for food? Would you like to come with me to that and that event? Would you like to meet up for a cup of tea? You don't even have to go anywhere if you don't, because money can also be a point. So a lot of people also
You can even go for a walk.
Yeah.
Nice talk. There are so many free
If you
events
like
can
at work, for example, you can also just take a break together. Hey, would you like to take a break with me together? If that's possible. And if you're at the gym, you can be like, hey, would you like to meet outside of the gym? So you can ask questions, but interact. You can also interact with their social media profiles if they have any, to show interest. But showing interest, especially in the conversation, is important, no matter if you're just literally getting to know the person, but also when you want to deepen the connections. It's important to asking questions is very important to keep the conversation going. Active listening, as good as you can. I mean, it's a practice and a skill that you can learn over time if you are not there yet. But simply being interested in the other person. And if you feel like the person might not be that interesting, because not everyone is open enough to share things that might be interesting, that's where questions are so important, because you can lead a conversation to interesting topics with the right questions by asking about specific things or topics that you're interested in. So think about the topics you're interested in. Think about things that you would like to know about other people. Think about the things that you would like to know more about, and kind of keep a repertoire of questions in the back of your mind. And with time, they will become absolutely natural, and they just will be there automatically. Another thing that I find very helpful in showing interest is people will always tell you things. So they will tell you where they work, what they do, how their day was, whatever it is. Just ask, just build on that by asking a question about what they're offering. That's already part of showing interest. So
because it can also show that you listen and that you understand what they are saying, and you build up on that, right?
Exactly. So you can also paraphrase things, for example. So if I saw a really funny video from a girl who said like having conversations with girls is so simple, and being there for them is so simple. Basically, they share something with you like, I'm not feeling good today, like my boyfriend left me. You simply repeat the last words as a question. Your boyfriend left you? Yeah, my boyfriend left me. It's really, really hard. He's moving out now, and we have all this stuff to sort out. You have all this stuff to sort out? Yeah, like all the stuff that he left, and I'm completely overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed? So it's very simple to keep the conversation going if you just rephrase the last couple of words as a question. I think that also works with, like, I personally think that could work with everyone. But find your own style. Try it out, find your own style, and see what works for you and what you feel comfortable with. Because a lot of us, it does not resonate with everyone.
No, but it's a technique to go deeper and deeper and deeper, actually. Mm-hmm. It's also like the why questions. So when someone tells you something, you then ask why, and then this brings you a level deeper, and then you ask why again, and that brings you deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Yeah. Yes. So that's another type how you can do it.
Yes, although I would say that the why questions are better for yourself than if you're in interaction with people, because then well, me personally, if I tell them a story and they say why at the end of everything I say, I feel like I'm talking to a child, because children like to do that because they lack the vocabulary to ask more specific questions.
I think it depends on the situation, and especially when you're really into your storytelling, you might even don't notice that much what the person is saying. And imagine there is a bigger time frame in between, like you tell your story part for 15 minutes, for example, and then the other one asks why, and then you tell another 10 or 15 minutes. You might even have forgotten that the person already asked you why before. Where it's more or less the same for me personally with repeating the last few words, because then if I'm aware of it, if I'm conscious about it, I would feel the same, because they also kind of just repeat me what feels then awkward. So I think it depends on the awareness probably, and also if you really do it like one-to-one, like if you really repeat exactly the words, or if you change them a little bit, and if you really just ask why, or if you add something to the question.
Well, do whatever you feel that resonates with you, because everyone is different, and if a conversation, like if things don't feel right, if it feels like we're not on the same wavelength, or if the other person withdraws, their body language goes away, which is also another important point in finding friends, is to have an open body language. Because if you're in a cafe, no matter where you are, if you're in a closed position where you're kind of like facing away from people, they will not approach you. So it is helpful to look at them, eye contact, smile at them when they walk past. And the same thing goes for like having headphones in. If you have headphones in, people are less likely to approach you. It's simple as that, because most people see the headphones and they're like, they're in their own time, which a lot of people use as a strategy to avoid contact. So keep that in mind, but try to have an open body language, which means you're sitting the same way I'm sitting to Sandra right now, which you cannot see if you're listening to this video. I'm facing her, so my legs are pointing towards Sandra, my face is pointing towards Sandra when I'm talking to her, and I'm looking at her. If it's a stranger, all you have to do is don't cross your arms, just keep your arms open, maybe just put them relaxed on your legs if you're sitting. Maybe you can put them in your pockets, that's not the worst thing, but just try to not keep them crossed, and look at them and smile. A smile goes a long way.
such a simple thing that is so rare, I find, and it feels also a little bit awkward to me. And you don't know, especially when it's the other gender, you think, okay, should this be enough flirting, or is this person just kind, or it's sometimes hard to interpret.
Yes, but I've learned that people can interpret everything as flirting if they want to, because you are not responsible for whatever thoughts other people have in their mind. And the thing is, what keeps most people from reaching out to new people or building connections are basically their own fears of what they think people might be thinking. But just remember, you make those stories up. You don't know what they're thinking, and you will never know, because even if they tell you, they could lie. So you make up what those people are thinking about you. So basically, you're being mean to yourself if you're like, I bet they think I'm awkward. Well, you think you're awkward. You thinking that they are thinking that you are awkward. But at the end, you don't know. So just keep that in mind, that it's basically you being mean to yourself, and instead expect the best, because you will never know. And then if it doesn't match your expectations, so if you expect people to like you wherever you go and to be kind to you and to be nice to you, if someone doesn't do it, well, then that happened. But you just continue that, because you're only afraid when you think that someone else is thinking badly about you, and in actuality you are thinking badly about you. I find that is very helpful for me, to just keep that in mind, that you are currently thinking that someone is thinking something like that you're awkward or that they don't like you. You are thinking that, not the other person, because you cannot hear their thoughts. And you're just interpreting whatever they're doing or however they're looking at you. Some people just have a grumpy day and you think, oh, that person doesn't like me, but maybe their cat just died and they're just not really happy and they can't bring themselves to smile at you. So don't take it personally, but I know how hard it is to and how hard it can be to take things personal. That's where self-love is very helpful. Okay. The next step of building a deeper connection would be. I was waiting.
Now it feels awkward for me. Well, what I wanted to say is that a little trick I trick myself with for those kind of actions actually is that I try to do it without thinking and quite quick. Because when I think too much about it, then I'm making up all those stories
and
in
you're
my
thinking
head.
yourself out of it.
Exactly. So if I try to ask myself the question how I would feel when I've done it and when it went good, and think, I would definitely feel better if I would have done it than if not. And this means I should do it, and I'm just afraid. So I try to blank a little bit in my head and just do this little action step. What is, for example, a smile or just approaching someone, saying hi, whatever, without thinking about it. And this little trick helped me quite a lot to start something, and then it 99% went good. So this is the little engine start for a lot of things that then keep on rolling.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. I completely forgot that, like, when I was younger, I actually used that too. It's like the 1, 2, 3 go method, where you basically just like you count to 3 and then you just do it. You don't think about it, you just do it. So you like it helps you overcome that triggering point of actually getting into action and talking to someone, for example. And I forgot that I did that a lot when I was younger. But now that's the thing, like the more you do it, the more it becomes your second nature, and then you even forget what got you there, and that is a really good step, because I've used that too.
Nice.
So how you can further deepen your connection is by sharing personal stories, sharing stuff out of your life. So asking, like, a very important point that I've noticed over the years is that trust and a deep connection is built not by like keeping everything to yourself, but by giving people the opportunity to be there for you, by sharing a situation that's going on in your life that you might have some trouble with, by confiding in people. And the same way the other way around, it builds trust on both sides, because the person who you approach with your problem feels like, oh, this person trusts me, because that's why they come and tell me a personal problem, for example. Oh, they trust me, so they feel like you trust them, and they trust you more for it. And the same way the other way around. So if you go with a problem to a friend and they listen to you, you then also start to build trust. So in your friendships that you might already have, give people the opportunity to be there for you. Ask for help. That was a challenge I had, especially when I was younger, that it was really hard for me to ask for help for anything, and to overcome that fear of asking for help and giving people the opportunity to show up. Because a lot of people want to be good friends, but they cannot just interfere if they don't know what's going on, and they cannot be there for you even though they would like to be. And if you never ask them for help, and you never share a situation that you need a solution for, that you need help with, or where you just want to rant, you can't really build trust with them, and you don't give them the opportunity.
Is also a very good advice for relationships. This is something I figured out, for example, in the last couple of months, or when we were exchanging about it. What might be a bit more direction from women to men, that we ask for help and give them the possibility to be in their masculine energy, but I think also the other way around would can be maybe a little bit different in what kind of help, for example. But this is something you guys more or less teach me a bit, that only if you allow your partner, you give the possibility for them to show up and to help you, what then builds, like you said, the deep connection and the trust.
And the last point of how to deepen your connections that you already have is you need to be reliable and accountable, which means if you set up a date, especially in the beginning of new connections, friendships, relationships, it's very important that, like, if you set a date, that you follow through with it. And that, like, when you say, oh, let's meet on Monday at that and that time, be there on Monday at that and that time. Punctuality, I feel like, also feels like into that. Because not everyone tolerates you being late. Not everyone will wait for you. And even if they do, it doesn't really set the right tone, because then people might be a little bit annoyed already, and then it doesn't really start off the meeting in the perfect, like, in a good way, in a good energy. So be reliable, show up, and over the long course of time, prioritize your friendships and make sure that you meet at least once a month. If you don't live in the same country anymore, which, in my life is the case a lot of the times, at least try to reach out once a month. Either by calling them on the phone, or by sending them a message, or even by sending them a meme. Nowadays that can be all the way how people keep friendships alive until they have a little bit more time, or send voice messages. There's many ways to keep, like, maintain your friendships even if you don't have time, but try to make time for your friends. And if they live in the same city, if you try to set up dates with your friends, like, okay, once a month at least. I mean, the younger you are, the easier it is, and it also depends on your life circumstances. If you don't have a full-time job, because you can arrange your life a little bit more flexible. If you you have a part-time job, like depending what it is, or you have activities in common. Another great idea is also, since everyone has busy lives, do tasks together. Go grocery shopping together. Yes, it might not feel like the best thing because it's not quality time in that sense, but if you don't have time, go grocery shopping together. You can still chat while you go grocery shopping. Try to find activities that both people need to be doing and support each other in that way. If your friends have kids, offer to help them with that. Like, that can also be a way of connecting with friendships. If you both have kids, then I don't know, go to the playground together. Find ways to work with what you have. So if you don't have time, try to find things that you both have in common, that you both need to do, like grocery shopping, for example, and do them together. Doing tasks together. Talk on the phone while you're both doing your household chores. Not only can that motivate people to actually do the things they need to do, but it's a great way to keep a connection. But just to come back to reliability, if you cancel an appointment, make sure to keep the next one. So if for example, if you're sick or something happened or something got in the way, apologize, be accountable, be like, hey, I really wanted to see you, but this and this came in the way. I'm really sorry, but are you free next week? Are you free on Tuesday? Could we meet up another time so I can make it up? And then be there and be reliable, because a lot of people that are not reliable are not necessarily unreliable per se. They just might not have the guts to tell you that they actually don't want to be friends with you, or they just don't enjoy your company as much, and they're too afraid to tell you, and they don't know how to really end because it seems so dramatical to end friendships. So a lot of people try to just fade out by literally being unreliable or not showing up. So by being like, oh no, I can't today, because that also very simply shows you where you are on their priority list, which is why you also have to make the friends that you have a priority if that is important to you. Because as we said, as we also discussed in the loneliness episode, it very much depends. Not everyone has a need for friends, especially a lot of people lose the need for friends once they have family and kids, because they feel like, I'm socially busy enough, I feel like I'm happy the way it is, I don't need more people. And they enjoy when they're alone, and they enjoy, finally have a moment to myself. And then there's other people who realize, well, my friends, my partner and my kids can't give me all the things that I need. There's a certain level that I can only have with female friendships, male friendships, whatever it might be. So prioritize them and expect them to meet you on the same level. So from a self-worth perspective, do not necessarily accept if they cancel you again and again and again, because that might, it shows where you are on their priority list for sure, but it also might just be them trying to actually not be friends with you. So keep that in mind and be reliable. Those are my points of how to find friends and how to build deeper connections.
I love the grocery idea, and it just reminded me of a story I've heard in the radio the other day. Is they were asking their audience with kids how they make time free for themselves, like me time. And the typical answers were, for example, the time to spend in the car between work and home, or when they are at the toilet. And one lady rang, and she was saying she orders her groceries online, but tells her family that she goes do the grocery shopping. So actually the whole work is done, and she has 2 hours for herself where she gets her nails done, going for a coffee and anything, and then just picks up the grocery.
That is so smart.
It's so smart.
It is so smart. So I already order groceries, but not, well, technically also to have more me time. I just don't lie about it. I just order groceries because I don't want to carry it, and I don't want to go to the store, and I would much rather spend time reading, writing, and doing other things I enjoy than grocery shopping. It's rare that I enjoy grocery shopping because it feels more like a chore. But yeah, that's a really, really smart idea.
I loved it, and it was so creative. I thought, she really deserves these hours for this creativeness.
Yeah.
Love it.
But to be fair, I think it would be good to talk about that honestly, because it could lead to problems down the road. It's like,
Maybe.
what? You ordered the groceries? You took 2 hours?
Well, we could open another discussion about honesty and why it has to be like a trick or a challenge to make time free for yourself. I know it's hard when you have kids. I totally get it, but I would say it is something that needs to be more implemented in everyday life, and that, for example, the partner takes over the kids once a week for an afternoon or something, that you exchange, that everyone also gets a bit of me time.
Yeah, I think it's very important to just be aware that you have that need, which she obviously was. But in regards to honesty, I personally think that you should, like, I know it's all part of a self-worth, because a lot of the reason why she probably did not tell her partner or her kids is because they might not accept that she wants time for herself, and they would feel maybe unloved and be like, oh, why do you want time away from us?
Yeah, and that's often the answer we get from the people that are maybe not aware of their own need, that you need some me time. Like, it's also the other way around for social connections. It doesn't mean that you have to have a lot of friends. It doesn't mean that you have to have all those connections. So that's totally up to yourself. Where loneliness is then created when you have a discrepancy between the social connections you would like to have and the ones you actually have right now. And not because someone tells you, oh, you need more friends, you need to go out more. Like, I also tell you, you need to go out more, but you are happy here in your cave. And then why not? That's fine.
I mean, I already have friends. I sometimes crave social connections, but since we live next to a pub, I usually just sit outside and get approached by people, and then I have conversations with new people, so I don't even have to go far. Then I also have a lot of people outside of this when I work or something, so I personally don't really feel the need for new friendships. And then I also have all the existing friendships in other countries that I kind of have to maintain, so therefore I'm kind of very happy as is. And the other thing is also, if you don't feel a need for friends, a lot of people don't feel pressured by society that you should have friends, because the thing is, if you're happy with yourself, you don't necessarily need friends. Humans have a need for physical touch, but you can get that through a multitude of ways. You can either
Baby ducks. I recommend.
Yes, you can get a pet, which is probably the reason why so many people who live alone have pets, because that contact, that touching, literally gives them the oxytocin, those bonding hormones that are so essential for humans. The happy hormones like serotonin. That's why touch is so important for your health. And what I've also like to mention is that loneliness in itself does not have to be unhealthy. So there's people who say there's a loneliness epidemic, and that loneliness is unhealthy and causes depression, all sorts of things. And although that might be true, toxic connections also harm your health, because it's very simple. if you feel good, if you're happy, no matter if you're alone or with people, your body produces all the repair chemicals, hormones, chemicals, whatever. It produces all the stuff that heals you. If you're happy and you feel good, your body knows, oh, now we have the time to repair and to make things better. So you're basically in a state where your body can regenerate when you're happy. When you're not happy, no matter if that is caused by not being happy about being lonely and not having friends, or about being in a toxic relationships, either way is stress for your body, and then your body shuts down the functions of certain organs to keep that energy in case the tiger will hunt you. Because the body does not know that the stress that you have when you're in a relationship, or the stress you might have from thinking negatively about the situation of not having friends, is not an actual real threat. Your body just feels, oh, we're not unhappy, so there must be something going on, and then it shuts down functions, and it's like it stops the repairs, and it reduces the amount of energy you use, or certain body function use, so it can have that energy in case something happens. Which is why it's just very important to listen to yourself and to your feeling and check in with yourself. And that's what we had in the very beginning with the question, if you meet with your friends, when you meet with your friends, do you feel energized afterwards? And I feel from all that we've discussed so far, which can be very helpful in building new connections, always make sure and always check in with yourself after relationships. Do you feel more energized or do you not? You don't have to feel energized always, because in every friendship there's ups and downs, and the same way you need the same way you want your friends to be there when something happened that is maybe not so fortunate and that does not make you happy, so you can rely on them, but you would also like them to be there when you want to celebrate something. That way for them, it can be that sometimes it's a little bit draining, but most of the time it's energizing. Most of the time it's giving you a good feeling. So always make sure that most of the time you leave with a good feeling. If it's a very new connection in the first interaction, if you don't feel good, maybe leave it, because you don't need to force something and hope for it to become better. But yeah, in friendships, as long as you feel good after the connection, that is your basic and easy guidance to tell you if you're building a deep connection, because you will feel automatically good if your connection gets deeper. And if you feel bad, drained, empty, not energized, then you know, oh, okay, maybe it was a little bit too shallow, maybe it was a little bit too on the surface level, maybe there is a little bit of depth missing, or maybe I overshared. Maybe maybe there was oversharing. There was a little bit too much vulnerability from your side and not enough from the other side, and it was a mismatch. So if you feel good, you're on the right track. And if not, you can focus on deepening your connections in a healthy way.
With feeling good, this can also mean some different things. That can mean that you feel lighter because you just dropped a little bit of your luggage, or you shared a little bit of your luggage. What makes you feel bad at the moment, and you have someone that listens to all of that and maybe gives you a hug or whatever you need at that moment. Feel good can be someone that is very euphoric and celebrates with you and jumps on some ideas, feeling good can be someone you do some activities with that you really enjoy. So feeling good can mean different things from time to time. So that can be the same person and can be different situations, but also different people can make you feel good in different ways. What means your friends doesn't have to cover all in one. So that's something I figured out myself just over time, and I tended to seek this in my partner, in my relationship partners. But there are nowadays friends, for example, for when I need a hug, then I have people I can just open up to without getting judged. Then when I need advice, when I need the loving slap, for example, like the reality slap. So I nowadays know pretty good where I have to go when I seek certain things. And this is something I would also like to point out. It's hard if you put the pressure on someone that this person has to be everything for you. And usually we tend to with our partners, like a lover, best friend, supporting, and all of those things. But it might be even healthier when you, divide that and find people who give you whatever you need in that moment, just in several people.
Or you give it to yourself.
Of course, always. The episode about self-love is coming. I think these are just two different things, and the more you can practice to give all those things to yourself, you crave less to get it from outside. But it, of course, is a different feeling if you give it to yourself or if you get it from someone else. And it can be a nice add-on, and still, it's a bit different.
That's very true. I have that with cooking. I love when Sandra cooks. I love it. I love it so much. It's because I personally just don't enjoy cooking, and having a friend who likes to cook and cooks anyways and then invites you to eat with them, best thing ever. Honestly, best thing ever for me. It's such a joy, and I'm kind of like, what a blessing. Honestly, what a blessing.
On the other hand, I'm very grateful to have you sometimes at the table when I cook something from my home country, something more traditional. What's very rare because I don't enjoy our kitchen that much, but sometimes I do. And then you really appreciate it. Well, for example, my partner is, okay. But you really appreciate it because it reminds you sometimes of home, and I love that you love it so much.
Yeah.
And then it's like a gratitude circle.
Yeah. Gratitude is a great way to appreciate and deepen your friendships as well, or any connection for that matter, because we all want to feel seen and valued, and gratitude and appreciation and telling someone what you enjoy about them or what you're grateful for is such a great way to foster that connection. Because then people, I don't know how it is with you, but like if people appreciate me or tell me what they're grateful for that I've been doing, that for me maybe might not even seem like a big deal, but it makes me like, oh, they've seen me, they value me. So Absolutely. It's a very great way of giving your friends a good feeling, to say it simply.
And it can be sometimes so basic things, or that feel for you that basic, where I checked in with my partner when he was feeling bad, how he is the next day, and it was so surprising for him because no one ever had done that before. And like, of course I do. Yeah, I care about you. Like, showing someone that you care about them, it's a big thing, and it doesn't have to be a big thing for you, but it might be a big thing for the other people, like with the cooking as well. Okay, shall we wrap up with a summary?
Yeah, sounds good. Would you like to summarize?
Maybe I'll leave it to you because you also gave all the advices, so you're better in your head. I might just break it down to the two bigger topics we had. That one was how to build friendships, and the other one was how to create deep connections. And how to build friendships would be?
I will summarize the points. So how to build or find friendships would be go outside more, meet more people, whether it is through hobbies, activities, work, whatever place where there's other people. It can also be on the street. Have open body language. Look at people, look people in the eyes, smile at them, face your body towards them, so turn your feet in their direction. If you're sitting in a cafe, maybe not that extreme. So Sandra was just coming very close, which I would not recommend doing with strangers. Unless it's I don't know, a cuddling retreat or something. In that space, it's probably okay. So yeah, open body language, very important. A smile goes a long way. Interact. Have some backup questions for the conversation. Ask questions. Make compliments. That can be your first point of contact. It's always good to have questions. So think about what you could ask other people in advance, and think about what interests you. And then ask questions about that. Show interest by active listening when you're in interaction with them, and actively listen to them by either rephrasing, asking questions, and pretty much all of the above. Make your friends a priority. Make friendships a priority if it is a priority for you, and if you do want friendships. And schedule set dates throughout the month, either once a month at least, or more often if that's possible for you time-wise. And if it's a new connection, last point would be to exchange contact details so you can stay in touch even if you don't see each other again in the same space. Those were my points for how to build friendships or / how to find friends. And then how to deepen the connections would be to share personal stories and talk about personal topics. Give people the opportunity to show you that you can trust them by opening up about something that you need help with. So ask for help, give them the opportunity to build that trust. And also, if someone comes to you with a personal story, a person that you care about, don't reject them. Just listen with, once again, open body language, questioning, and paraphrasing what you've heard. Another point would be to share appreciation and gratitude with your connections to further deepen the connections. And the last point would be reliability. Be reliable. In friendships, in connections in general, if you say we meet up at that time, meet up at that time. If you can't make it, be accountable. Tell them that you're sorry. Make a plan for how you can make it up, like by meeting the next week or whatever is possible for you. So be reliable. That also builds trust in any relationship and any connection you have, because then people are like, oh, they doing what they're saying they're gonna do.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And we're gonna summarize that for you in a PDF paper as always. You will find that on Patreon and also on LinkedIn. Just follow us on all those platforms, also on Instagram, where you can get this information in little snippets. And of course, you're gonna be notified when a new episode comes out. And yeah, that's it for today.
Subscribe to your YouTube channel and rate us 5 stars. We would very much appreciate it.
To show gratitude, we should like it.
And also because if you subscribe to us, you will never miss an episode. So thank you very much for listening in today. and we hope you enjoyed it. And that's
See you next time.
See you next time.
Can I get a hug?
Yes. The microphones will be loud.
Yeah. Ah.